Welcome to our deep dive into creating a tropical garden oasis. It sounds like our listener is really looking to transform their outdoor space into a true personal paradise.
And they've given us some fantastic source material to work with. We're talking about exotic blooms, soothing water features, really designing in a way that'll make the garden feel like a vibrant escape.
I have to admit, when I think tropical garden, my mind immediately jumps to palm trees.
Oh, for sure. Palms are so iconic. But it's not as simple as just sticking any palm tree in your garden.
Right. Like I'm picturing those tall, slender ones you see in like California,
Yeah,
right?
you're thinking of the royal palm, probably.
That's the one. Are those a good fit for any tropical garden?
They can be stunning, especially if you have a large space. Imagine a towering royal palm gracing a spacious lawn. It's a real statement piece. But if you have a smaller area, like a patio, a clumping areca palm might be a better fit.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, their feathery fronds will give you that tropical vibe without overwhelming the space.
So it's not just about cramming in as many tropical plants as possible.
Not at all. It's about thoughtful selection and placement.
Got it. So it's more like creating a whole mood, a feeling.
Exactly. Think of it like
Right.
building a symphony of textures and shapes. You've got those bones of the garden, the palms, maybe you dramatically leave banana tree to bring in some movement, and then layers of foliage to create that depth and lush jungle feel.
Okay, let's talk about those layers. What kind of plants are we talking about? I mean, beyond palm trees, I'm a bit lost.
Well, ferns are always a great starting point.
Yeah, I was picturing ferns.
They just thrive in the humidity and that dappled light that many tropical plants love.
Right.
Picture the Australian tree fern, for example.
The Australian tree fern.
It has these huge fronds, almost prehistoric looking. It's like having a dinosaur in your backyard.
Huh. That's going on my wish list. But I have to ask, what about color? I'm ready for those vibrant, almost unreal blooms that just scream tropical paradise.
You have to look into heliconias.
Heliconias.
Yeah. Imagine a flower shaped like a lobster claw, and these fiery oranges and reds bursting out from lush, banana-like leaves.
Wow, they sound amazing.
They really are something else. Unbelievably striking.
Heliconias. Okay, got it. What about scent? I want to walk into my garden and be instantly transported by the fragrance.
For pure intoxicating fragrance, you can't beat plumeria, also known as frangipani.
Oh yeah, frangipani. I love that scent.
Imagine walking outside on a warm evening and being surrounded by that sweet, almost heady aroma.
It's like instant vacation. Okay, so we've got palms, ferns, heliconias, and plumeria. That's a fantastic start. But I feel like something's missing.
What are you thinking of?
That peaceful, almost meditative element I associate with tropical gardens.
You're talking about water features.
Yes.
They're essential, really. More than just an addition. They create this whole sensory experience.
Right.
The gentle sound of a fountain, the visual drama of a waterfall. It really transforms a space.
I've always loved the idea of a waterfall, but wouldn't that require a ton of work? Like a lot of maintenance?
Not necessarily. Some waterfalls are really elaborate installations, sure.
Yeah.
But you can achieve a similar effect with a simple recirculating pump and some clever rock arrangements.
Oh, interesting.
It's all about finding the right scale and design for the space.
So even someone who isn't like a DIY expert could pull it off.
Definitely. There are lots of options for different skill levels and budgets.
That's encouraging. What if I'm more drawn to something, still and reflective? Are there other water feature options?
Absolutely. A reflecting pool is a fantastic alternative. Imagine this. A calm, mirror-like surface reflecting the sky and surrounding greenery.
So peaceful.
It creates this incredible sense of peace and spaciousness, especially when you surround it with lush, tropical plants.
I can see it now. Okay, we've got the visual drama from the plants, the soothing sounds from the water features. What comes next?
Now we need to add structure and flow with some hardscape.
Escaping.
Basically, think about how you'll move through the space. Winding pathways made of natural stone, maybe a raised wooden deck for dining or lounging.
Yeah.
Strategically placed seating areas where you can just relax and enjoy.
That sounds lovely. And speaking of enjoying the garden, how do we extend that enjoyment into the evening? It's a shame to let such a beautiful space just, disappear when the sun goes down.
You're talking about lighting.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's crucial. It's not just about illuminating the space, but creating a whole ambiance.
Right. It needs to feel magical, right?
Exactly. Soft, warm lighting can really make those plant textures come alive, creating a whole different mood.
I've always loved the look of string lights. Could we work those in for a bit of whimsy?
Oh, absolutely. String lights are fantastic, especially over a patio or seating area.
Mm-hmm.
But we can get creative with other lighting too. Imagine uplighting a majestic palm tree.
Self lighting.
You place spotlights at the base, casting those shadows upward for a really dramatic effect.
Wow, I love that. You've got me thinking about all sorts of possibilities.
That's what we're here for.
Before we get too carried away with lighting, though, I want to touch on something our sources mentioned. The tropical garden as a personal sanctuary.
Ah, yes. That's the heart of it, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
What does that idea mean to you?
To me, it's about creating a space that truly nourishes the soul. A place to escape the everyday, to connect with nature, to just be.
I love that. It's not just a garden, it's an experience.
Exactly.
I think that's a perfect place to wrap up this first part of our deep dive. We've laid the groundwork, explored the essential elements, and now we're ready to get into the details.
I'm excited to delve deeper.
Me too.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of choosing the plants that will really bring your tropical garden to life. We've talked about some stars already, palms and ferns, but there's a whole world out there.
I'm ready. I'm especially fascinated by this idea of layering to create that lush jungle vibe. How do we actually do that?
Okay, imagine this. You're walking down a path, the air is thick with humidity, sunlight filtering through these big leaves, brushing past ferns, maybe their fronds soft against your skin, and then you spot a vibrant heliconia flower peeking out. That's the magic we're talking about.
Wow, you really know how to set the scene. So how do we create that layered effect?
Think of it like building a skyscraper, a living one. Start with the foundation, the tallest plants, your majestic palms, maybe a banana tree for movement. They're your penthouse level.
Okay, penthouse level, got it. What about the middle floors?
There, we want density and abundance. Think about shrubs, ferns, large leaf plants like those heliconias we talked about, or even philodendrons. They add visual interest, texture, and that enclosed, intimate feeling.
Okay, I'm picturing this dense tapestry of green starting to take shape. What about the ground floor of our plant skyscraper?
Down there, we want a lush carpet effect. Mixing ground covers, low-growing shrubs, even trailing plants. Mondo grass is a classic choice, forms a nice, neat mat.
And what about that creeping Jenny you mentioned earlier? I love that it comes in both green and gold variety.
It's perfect. Adds a pop of color, softens edges of paths and planters, and for something dramatic, sweet potato vine. Cascades beautifully, like a waterfall.
Okay, our jungle is coming to life. Palms, ferns, heliconias, these amazing ground covers. Now, of course, we need flowers.
Absolutely. They're the jewels, those bursts of color and personality. And when you think tropical flowers, you got to think hibiscus.
I've always been drawn to those big, showy hibiscus flowers. They just scream tropical paradise.
They really do. And the variety is amazing. You can find them in almost any color you can imagine. Fiery reds, oranges, soft pinks, yellows, they're a must-have.
Hibiscus is going on the list for sure. What about other flowering options?
If you want something truly unique, check out the bird of paradise. Those orange and blue flowers, they look like a crane's head, really striking.
Ooh, those sound amazing. And for fragrance, we talked about plumeria, but are there other fragrant flowers for a tropical setting?
Definitely. For a truly enchanting scent, there's night-blooming jasmine. Those small white flowers release an amazing fragrance that gets even stronger in the evening.
Perfect for those warm tropical nights. Okay, we've got foliage, ground cover, flowers, all beautiful to look at. But as we said before, a tropical garden is about all the senses.
You're leading right into water features. That sound of trickling water, that visual drama, it's an experience that goes beyond just sight.
And we talked about different types, waterfalls, reflecting pools. But practically speaking, can most people add these to their gardens? Or is it better to call in the professionals?
That's a great question. It really depends on what you have in mind. A small preformed pond with a fountain, that can be a DIY project, even for beginners.
Okay, that's good to know.
But if you're thinking big, like a multi-tiered waterfall, a koi pond, then yes, a professional is probably the way to go.
Makes sense. So it's about balancing ambition with what's realistic. But either way, I agree, water in a garden adds something truly special.
And don't forget the therapeutic side of things. That sound of trickling water, it's incredibly soothing.
Like having your own personal spa. All right, we've got plants, we've got water features, but a garden needs some structure, right? It can't just be a jumble of greenery.
Exactly. That's where hardscaping comes in. It's the architectural framework, you could say.
Hardscaping, okay.
Think paths, patios, retaining walls, trellises, defining spaces, creating flow.
So it's about creating rooms within the garden, each with their own purpose and personality.
You got it. And for materials, I'm picturing natural stone pathways winding through the lush foliage.
Natural stone, yeah, that feels right.
It blends beautifully, complements those organic shapes.
Yeah.
Flagstone, slate, river rock for pathways. And don't be afraid to play with patterns. Curving paths, stepping stones, even mosaics.
Mosaics, ooh, I like that. Bit of artistry in the garden. What about patios? What would work well for a tropical look?
Natural stone is great there too. Durable, weather-resistant, gives a feeling of permanence. Wood decking also works, especially if you want a raised platform, like you're floating above the jungle floor.
A floating deck? That sounds amazing. And speaking of floating, we need those comfy seating areas, right? Places to relax and just enjoy it all.
Absolutely, especially in a tropical garden. Think about creating different seating areas for different moods. Maybe a hammock between two palm trees for ultimate relaxation,
Oh yeah, hammock time.
or a cozy bench in a shady spot for quiet reflection. And of course, a dining table on the patio for meals, surrounded by all that beautiful greenery.
You're making me want to move in already.
And don't forget the vertical elements. Trellises, arbors, pergolas. They add structure, height, and they're perfect for climbing vines and flowering plants. Imagine a pergola covered in fragrant jasmine or passion flower.
Oh, that sounds so romantic. Okay, we need to add those to the plan. Trellises, pergolas, fragrant vines. But before we get carried away, I want to circle back to lighting.
Ah, yes. Lighting, it's like the secret weapon for creating that perfect ambiance.
I love how the right lighting can transform a space. I'm thinking soft, warm light, highlighting the textures of the plants, creating a magical feeling.
Exactly. And it can be as simple or elaborate as you like. Start with something basic, like solar path lights for walkways.
Solar lights are a good starting point, for sure. Easy and energy efficient. But what about something more dramatic? Could we use spotlights?
Spotlights are great for drama. Highlight a waterfall or a special plant. It's about directing the eye, adding depth and texture.
I love it. And for a touch of whimsy, some string lights, maybe?
Perfect. String lights are so warm and inviting, especially over a patio. You can find all sorts of styles, from classic bulbs to colorful fairy lights.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. We've covered so much. Plants, water features, hardscaping, lighting. We're really building this incredible tropical garden experience.
And we're just getting started. In the next part, we'll talk about the personal touches that will make your tropical garden truly unique.
Okay, we've covered the basics, the structure, all the essential elements. Now I'm ready for specifics. I want to hear about some of your favorite plants.
All right, let's get into it. How about canna lilies? Those big banana-like leaves, and the flowers are just incredible. Reds, oranges, yellows, they really make a statement.
Canna lilies, I've seen them, but I never thought of them as specifically tropical.
They thrive in a tropical setting.
Yeah.
And they're not too fussy, which is always a plus.
Low maintenance and beautiful, that's a win-win. What about some more unusual choices? I'm always on the lookout for something unique.
Well, if you want unique, check out the bat flower. It's a little spooky looking, I'll admit.
Spooky, how so?
The flowers have these long, whisker-like bracts. That's where it gets its name.
Yeah.
But the blooms are a deep, velvety maroon. Really stunning.
Okay, the bat flower, that's going on the list. I love plants that are a little different. What about ground cover? We talked about layering. What are some good options to fill in those gaps?
For a really lush tropical carpet, you can't go wrong with the aluminum plant. The leaves have these silvery markings that catch the light beautifully.
Ooh, aluminum plant, that sounds lovely. And it's low maintenance.
Pretty much.
Oh.
And it adds a nice touch of elegance, too. We talked about creeping Jenny, too, always a favorite.
Yeah, that bright green or gold is hard to beat.
And if you want something with a bit more height and texture, try some bromeliads. They come in so many colors and patterns, and they add a real architectural element.
Bromeliads are great. They're like little sculptures almost. Now, we talked about lighting for ambiance. Are there any specific techniques that work particularly well in a tropical setting?
Definitely. One that's really effective is uplighting. Imagine spotlights at the base of palm trees, casting those shadows upward.
Uplighting, yeah. That would create such a cool effect, emphasizing the height of the plants.
It's very dramatic. For something softer, you could use string lights or lanterns to create pools of light in seating areas or along paths.
I love lanterns hanging from tree branches. So magical.
And don't forget about moonlighting.
Moonlighting, what's that?
You place spotlights high up in the trees, so the light filters down through the leaves, like moonlight.
Wow, that sounds incredible. So peaceful. Okay, before we wrap up, I want to touch on that idea of the tropical garden as a personal sanctuary. How do we bring that concept to life?
It's all about those personal touches. A
Yeah.
piece of art that you love, a cozy reading nook, a water feature that has special meaning for you.
I love that. It's about making the garden truly your own, a reflection of who you are.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment. Tropical gardens are all about abundance. Try different plant combinations, play with colors and textures, see what works for you.
It's a reminder that gardening is a journey, not a destination. It's constantly evolving.
That's so true. Embrace the journey, have fun, and let your tropical garden become your own little piece of paradise.
And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive. We've explored the elements, the plants, the design ideas. Hopefully, we've inspired our listener to create their own tropical oasis.
To our listener, we say, go for it. Create a garden that brings you joy, peace, and a deeper connection with nature. Happy gardening.